Almost a year ago, access to Arcadegeddon, a new project by Ilphonic, primarily known for Friday the 13th, the game opened. Now the final version has been released, which is also available to PlayStation Plus subscribers. I found the early version to be a very interesting action game, which successfully combined the standard mechanics of such games, and so I was wondering how the developers plan to develop this project. It turns out that they didn't. Just like a year ago, we are transferred to the arcade, which wants to get its hands on the evil mega corporation. There's no room left in the Arcadegeddon universe for normal arcade video games. The industry is crammed full of cheap knockoffs that somehow people like and bring in huge amount of money. The owner of the hell is not ready to put up with the state of affairs and decides to create his last best game, which is able to entice a large part of the audience. However, the corporation does not like such actions. It launched a virus that can destroy the game, and our task is to get rid of it. You will have to spend your time in the game to fight against this plague. It is a dynamic third-person action roguelike in which you have to run from one end of the corridor map to the other, performing simple tasks. Stand on points, fight off a wave of enemies, shoot the cubes that appear in different places. There are not many situations, and they all have already been in the early version. That's the problem with Arcadegeddon. It's hard to see how the released version differs from what was available a year ago. Maps seems to have increased, but there's still not much. The location quickly starts repeating themselves, and there's no difference between them. Everywhere there is a series of corridors and large rooms of squares. Some areas can boost off vertically, and some more often meet the opponents face to face. But gameplay does not change much. Does not save the claimed procedure generation, you do not have noticed it. Opponents became a little more diverse. The higher the difficulty level, the more often you meet new spacemates. At first, these are soldiers with jetpacks flying over the ground. The monsters just explode as they approach. Then some skinny devils running in groups, goers with shields and other creeps are added to them, which can be fun to fight. Fortunately, once you reach certain stages, you can start the next run not with the first level of difficulty, but with the later ones, to avoid fighting with weak enemies. Most disappointing are the bosses. There are only 4 of them, and on about my 5th attempt, I managed to defeat them all in one run and get the corresponding achievements. They are completely uninteresting. Each is a large creature summoning a pack of small monsters and occasionally shooting at you. They appear in random order, which makes the problem with balance particularly annoying. If the battle with one boss is in the hall with a lot of columns and other shelters, then with the other you meet in open area, where there is almost nowhere to hide, and sometimes they turn on the second phase, which is not significantly different from the first, just a strip of their health is restored entirely. That said, the gameplay framework in Arcadegeddon is good. I liked it a year ago as much as I do now. The character runs fast, can ride on his heel like a vanished hero, and use magic tricks that are restored when eliminating enemies. As it takes place inside the arcade game, there are multiplayers, numbers flying out of the enemies, record tables, and other similar elements. There are dozens of weapons. We start with a simple pistol, which has an infinite amount of ammunition, but it overheats quickly. And by searching chests and breaking boxes, you find a lot of other guns, freezing and arson, and firing something like circular saws or grenades. There are submachine guns, machine guns, sniper rifles, even swords. You are allowed to carry 3 guns with you. so you can equip weapons for all occasions, both for close combat and for a long-range firefights. The more often you use something, the higher the level of the item becomes, and along with this unlocks the ability to take it with you from the beginning of the race. If any 3 types of weapons you particularly like, then take them and do not search for chests. That said, if at first you run with green guys, which have poor characteristics, over time they will acquire legendary status and deal more significant damage. However, in the central hub, where you are engaged in setting up equipments, for some reason you cannot compare the characteristics. One then is unique about the races if you take your weapons with you, and the maps are not very different from each other. This is where Hex passive bonuses that you collect as you pass through the missions come in handy. However, even if on paper these bonuses seem significant, in fact they do not change the gameplay. There are no sense of destroying enemies faster or spending less time completing tasks. Therefore, Arcadegeddon quickly becomes a chore. In early version this was not so noticeable, as it seems that this was just a part of the game, and over time the project will grow with content and things will make more sense. In the end, however, almost everything stayed exactly the same. In this regard, it is not quite clear why there was the rising of the process. Those who bought the game before the release were given a handful of virtual currency, as well as accelerated the process of earning levels, and that's all. Wanted to put the old-timers and newcomers in equal condition? That's right, because there's no P2P in the game, only cooperative races. Few things are designed to keep the players. First, the system of progress. Characters in the hub issue tasks, getting new levels opens up passive abilities, you can buy a new magic tricks, but again the gameplay does not become more diverse. The quests are trivial and passives are so few that there's nothing to choose from, and the hosts are even less. The second element is the customization of the character. Although you see the hero from the back and do not control him from the first person, the ability to change the customers as it should encourage to get new legs. However, neither missions for the sake of new items nor to look into the store. Everything is grey and boring. There is nothing that you would like to unlock as soon as possible. It's funny to see a store with microtransactions here. It's hard to imagine that you pay real money for all of this. Actively support the game with updates. The attitude towards it was benevolent. You can appreciate it in my preview from a year ago. Now it turns out that the normal support was not, and it's not expected. They didn't even fix the small print here. It was impossible to read weapon specification on a 4K TV then as it now. Gameplay wise, it's not the worst entertainment. You can run around and shoot for a few evenings with some fun. However, at some point you realize that you are wasting your time. Pros of the game is a dozen of weapons, easy controls and good shootings. Quite a lot of types of enemies, the higher the difficulty, the more diverse they are. And cons is a few maps and the difference between them is minimal. Only 4 bosses that do not stand out. Process system does not encourage to spend a lot of time in the game, and it's I highly not recommend to play this game because it's so boring and not interesting at all.